Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name's Max and we're back with the weird intros because the lighting is terrible every other place in my house. So today we are starting what I think I'm gonna make is a new series where we do a new fun crafty thing every month, and I'm gonna try and make it as accessible to everybody as I possibly can. So if we do end up doing that, this month's craft is going to be these little wooden babies, and you've probably seen other YouTubers painting on these, and they're normally a lot bigger. I've got miniature ones today, and they're basically just wooden circles that you decorate and you can paint on them and stuff. And this isn't the thing you tend to typically have lying around, but I don't think they're very expensive. I'll link somewhere you can get them, probably Amazon, in the description. The great thing about these is half the work's basically done for you because they're already interesting because they're wooden circles. So if the painting you do is not very interesting, it's automatically made interesting by your interesting choice of canvas. And that's why it's accessible to everyone. Everyone can paint on little wooden circles. Today I'm going to be doing 3 circles. I was going to do 5, but I only did 3. They are very small, but the designs I did were quite simple. There's like an easy, medium, hard level of skill involved, so feel free to follow along with what I'm doing or do whatever you want. My camera sinks. Why does my camera sink? Okay, right, enjoy the video, bye. So, our first circle. This is the medium level of skill painting, and I have pre-painted all of the circles with a white base coat so that none of the wood colour shows through, but maybe you might want some of the wood colour to show through, so if you're looking for a more natural wooden leaning into the wood sort of vibe, then don't do that. But I'm just taping off the area and I'm making a little night sky shining through a window. Next, I painted the wall around the window and I used this pale pink colour, but I did end up changing that several different times, so it's not really that important of a change. This circle is the medium difficulty circle because all of the edges are pretty straight and there's nothing too strenuous going on. And I'd taped off the bottom area because that's where the bookcase is going to be, and I'm just painting the top of that brown. Next, I went over the wall in this green colour, which I then changed to a lighter green colour later. I had to try quite hard not to paint over the strip of bark around the edge because I did want to include that, but I think I did accidentally cover up some of it on this layer of the wall. After touching up some of the pink areas that I'd missed, I then used that green colour to paint some of the books on the bookshelf. And once I'd done that, I got some white paint out and I painted a little crescent moon in the sky and a couple of stars as well. And at last we reached the final stage of wall where I use this really pale green. It's pretty much white, but it is green, and I covered up all of that nasty snot colour that was underneath. I then gave a couple of the books that colour before touching up the wooden part of the bookshelf because I had accidentally gone over it a couple times. And next, you can't really see it, but I did a little pencil sketch of a cat sitting up on the windowsill and looking out of the window. I filled the entire sketched out area with white paint so that I had a nice clean base to paint the cat on with. This painting was kind of inspired by my cat Dan because he does like to sit on the windowsill and look out, not typically at night, but in the daytime. Next, I got a cream colour and I painted across the windowsill. This took quite a while because it was a very thin strip to paint on and I kept changing my brush. I then left it to dry overnight, and that's why there's a weird lighting change because I'm using natural light in this bit. And I used a even paler cream colour to fill in the window frames. Next I got a grey and I coloured in the cat. My cat isn't grey, he's black and white, but I felt like if I did a black and white cat, the black would kind of melt into the sky and you wouldn't really be able to tell that it was a cat. So it's grey. I waited for that to dry, then I whipped out a darker grey to add the tabby stripes to the cat. While that dried, I painted in a couple more books, and then I added a little green collar to tie the cat to the rest of the green theme of the painting. Next, I whipped out a fine liner and I outlined all of the lines because I wasn't originally going to do it, but the pale muted colours did all seem to mush into each other, and I thought it would benefit from a fine lining. And it did. It had this really cool cartoony vibe about it after I did, and I really liked it. Now we are moving on to the hard level of difficulty painting. So here I've just taped off an area for the moon and for the ground, and I'm just blending together another night sky. We've got a bit of a theme going on here, I've noticed. But ignore the weird scribbles on the masking tape. That was just me testing to see if my pen was working earlier. And I've been struggling with blending like this. This took me quite a while, and on the next one you're about to see, that took quite a while to blend as well, because I just end up making it too black or too blue and have to keep going over what I just done. But I did get there eventually, and once I had and it had dried, I peeled off all of the masking tape and I painted in the moon with a very pale grey that looks almost white. Originally I intended to leave it like that, but it just looked like I hadn't painted anything because it was so pale. So I got a light yellow and I blended that in to have a bit of shading on it and make it look like the moon was glowing. I then went back in with the grey and added some circular details for the craters. Next I painted the ground a base of burnt sienna. I then decided to incorporate a little bit of green as well and make it more of a gradient so that there's a bit of tonal variation going on in the floor as well as the sky. While I waited for that to dry, I added some white stars, and I actually regretted that in the end, but there wasn't much I could do because the background was a gradient, so they couldn't be easily painted over. It would have been better if I just painted maybe 4 or 5 instead of like thousands. Anyway, I got a dark blue and I used that to paint in the silhouettes of some trees at either side. While that dried, I got out one of my old brushes and I used it to make a grass texture on the dirt area. And this is a good use of brushes that have gone crusty and are a bit manky because they go all coarse and they're good for painting grass. So if you ruin a brush, don't throw it away, don't feel bad because you can just use it to do some grass on some of your other paintings. And I then used a thinner brush to add grass to the horizon so that it continues upwards. And this is where the stars got a bit confusing because I went over the outline of the trees so that they stood out from the black background a bit more, and because I did it in white it kind of clashed with the stars and it looked as if some of the stars that were behind the trees were actually part of the trees. I then used that same white gel pen to do the outline of a little fox that was running through the forest and looking up at the moon. Just as I had done in the cat with the previous one, I painted the entire area in white so that I could go over him again afterwards, but I did actually end up leaving him white because I quite liked the idea of having him being like an Arctic fox. Once everything had dried, I went back in with my black fine liner, went around the edge of the entire painting, and I also gave some outlining and detail to the white fox in the middle. Now we're moving on to our final painting. This one was a little bit of a funky shape, so I had to tilt it a certain angle to make sure that everything would line up when I hung it up from a string. And I did, as I mentioned earlier, another gradient background, this time with white, green and brown, to give it a sort of foresty woodland vibe. Despite this painting being the easiest one, this bit did take ages because, as I said earlier, I am struggling with doing gradients at the moment, but I did eventually get there after applying more paint and more layers. It did eventually work. A great thing about these wooden circles is that they can really easily be made into gifts for people because you can so easily customize them and personalize them. Once that had dried, I did a pencil outline and filled that outline in with white so I could have a clean base coat to paint over. And this one was just a very simple painting of some mushrooms in the woods. The design consisted of one large mushroom and a couple of smaller ones next to it. And once I'd finished that and they had dried, I did another pencil sketch where I planned out where all of the mushroom spot things, the white blobs, where all those were going to be, and I painted red around it. Originally I was going to paint the whole thing red and then do the white on afterwards, but I thought that was a bit counterproductive, seems as I already had a white base coat underneath it. However, that technique did make it kind of difficult to do the smaller ones because they were mostly spot, so I had to weave between them with a really teeny tiny brush. And once that was finished, I got out a cream colour and I painted all of the stalks. Now it does look completely white on the camera, but trust me, it is cream and it is a very authentic mushroom colour. And then I added more definition to the mushrooms by painting in all of the spots with an extra coat of white, partly to cover up the pencil lines that were still there, but also to brighten them up a bit so that they're a bit more colourful and popped out from the background. This painting also got a black outline, although I should have waited a little bit longer because it was still wet and it did clog up my fine liner for a bit, but I did manage to save it and save the painting as well. And here are the finished designs in reverse order. So here's the mushroom, I'm pretty pleased with that one. And here is the white fox in the forest. And my favourite one, the cat on the windowsill. It's so simple, but it's really effective, I think. Here they are all together. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching and make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content.